Chris, I'm curious if you agree with me a little bit like this, but when you and I went to Cosm and saw the advertising for what they had to offer, the types of films they would be putting out there, the experience there is amazing. And I can easily see concerts going live and having a supplementary audience at a venue like Cosm. Mm-hmm. Hello, and welcome to the Cup of Tea Critiques podcast. I'm your host, Brandon Chasen, and like always, I'll be joined today by the team that brings you cupofteacritiques.com. Here, we'll dive deep into the productions and topics we broach on our website, so you can decide for yourself if they're your cup of tea. Ready for a deep look with a deep brew? This week's topic, concert films. Cup of Tea Critiques is a family affair, and I'm here with my brother Chris, my mother Reba, and my father Terry.
There's necessarily a distinction between what's driving, say, concert films in terms of things like Beyonce's movie and the Eras Tour and the biopics. I'm not sure if the motivations for doing those are necessarily different.
I'm sure they are.
I think they're very different.
When we were talking about the motives, I think, nostalgia was mentioned, and I think that's heavy with biopics, the nostalgic element there. And I think it is with some concert films. Mm-hmm. Like they re-released Stop Making Sense, which was the one about the Talking Heads. Right. So I think with some artists who are, where the band is not together anymore, or the band doesn't perform as much anymore, or whatever like that, there's a nostalgic element to some of those concert films. But I think it's that motivation in particular is heavier in biopics, because some of those artists are deceased. Some of them can't perform anymore. So that it's more about, hearkening back to a time where they were just a mega celebrity, as opposed to somebody that we kind of enjoy their music, but we don't necessarily pay attention to what they're doing now.
I think, Chris, you're hitting the nail on the head when it comes to the biopics. There's much more of a nostalgic feel, especially when you're talking about these are artists that aren't in regular circulation as they were in the past. Comparatively speaking, when we're talking about concert films, I think the motivation has to be very different, because these are present-day artists, specifically calling out Taylor Swift and Beyoncé. I think the motivation for doing those is recognizing the technology of today, how difficult it is to get a ticket to see any of them live, and they've realized a new avenue to allow fans an opportunity to see these types of events without breaking the bank, and with the understanding that it's a much easier access to catching different times of films than it is to try and catch them in concert 2 days in your town.
Yeah. Obviously, you can reach a wider audience, people that can't go to the concert for whatever reasons, economics or logistics for that matter. The movie, it can play, 10 times a day in theaters all over the country or all over the world. Presents another format for the artist to distribute their work.
I think it's important, too, to remember, what's driving this, and that this is not just something that just popped out of the blue either. That one of the big things that drove this is really the pandemic. We're driven, COVID drove people into their homes, and so obviously we couldn't be near one another, not safely. And so what did we have left? We had access to our screens, obviously, and so, people began watching, not just films and TV shows, but I remember seeing during the pandemic a person in Italy, for example, who loved music so much and actually was a member of an orchestra, and he played his piano on the internet every day. There was a time of day where he played his piano every day. He played beautifully. He was an incredible pianist. There were people who were violinists. This is their job. They're musicians, and they needed to get their music out, but they couldn't go perform with the orchestra and such. And so they found a way to get their music out. And so people began to watch via YouTube and such. Movie concerts evolved out of that. And they realized that it serves multiple purposes, even though we're no longer in the middle of a pandemic, that, to you guys' points earlier, it has an economic component. It allows for people who cannot afford to go to these concerts to actually get to experience them, even if it's through the screen. And they have a shared experience, to Brandon's point, because they are there in the theater with others, so it feels like they're actually at the venue in that sense. And there are many, many other benefits. The artist, of course, is still getting money from that. Studios are getting money from that, and theaters are getting money from that, and studios are getting some amount of money from that.
Yeah.
So I thought it was important to just bring up the fact that this isn't something that came out of the blue, but it evolved out of something very real.
One of the things that was brought up was that it's an increased supply for the movie theaters. They have a certain supply of films, and we know that films are made on a certain cadence. And even though there are lots of films that are made, those that make it to theaters are, not necessarily that many. And they kind of come in waves. So it's an increased supply for the movie theaters. That was one point that was brought up. And the other was it diversifies their content. Now you're talking about adding
a non-traditional film.
Yeah, right.
I think concert films are a pretty ingenious idea to make the concert accessible to people across ages, frankly, across age groups. Also, it considers economics, to your point, Terry. I was reading that when it came to the Eras Tour, the concert film for the Eras Tour, they actually encouraged families to get up and dance during the show. And I thought that was very interesting. And so there were these pictures, there were these photos they had along with the article of, some kids in their pajamas, for example. So I had gone to the theater later at night, but these kids in their pajamas, and they're standing up and they're dancing in the aisles, so they could enjoy this concert as if they were there. Yeah. And so I think it's a pretty ingenious idea. And to their point, it does indeed expand. It expands their audience too. People of all ages can come, and people who normally cannot come to concerts can come as well. There's a huge financial benefit to movie theaters, which we know can indeed use a boost. I'll say personally, I'm not feeling concert films. I'm not feeling going to a theater to see a movie with a concert. I'd rather go to the concert. So yeah, that's just not something I'm feeling. If I'm at home, I'm going to just listen to the CD or put it up on Spotify or something like that. But
Mom, I understand that point of view, but I don't believe it is shared by as many people because of the popularity of the two specific artists. Beyonce is at the top of her game, and the Eras Tour for Taylor Swift was the highest grossing concert of all time. And Dad, you brought up logistics. It's not just a financial piece because those tickets are very expensive for the most part. But then you also have to figure out how far is that travel. Like, the ability to make it to those things is extremely difficult. And so that's where I think these concert films really help.
Yeah, have you seen any concert films? All of you, actually. Have you seen any concert films?
I have. I saw the Bee Gees perform in concert. They had an old Bee Gees concert on, I think it was an HBO special done of Bee Gees concert. Actually, now that I think about it, it might have been several Bee Gees concerts. And yeah, I enjoyed that 2 hours. I enjoyed it very, very much. And it is because, they were popular in the 70s. And, I was 10. So what do I know about? What do I know about getting tickets to go to a Bee Gees concert? Not to mention their music was more adult oriented. It wasn't for kids. So that was not a concert I was going to go to. And so, yeah. So I'm saying that I watched it 30 years later.
Yeah. And what I was going to say on Brandon's point about people going to movie theaters to see those is that a couple of things. One, it's similar to watch parties that they do for sporting events, and that, people get together and they watch it. And one of the points they made in some of the stuff that we were reading was that it's a shared experience with other fans. So it is a lot like a watch party in that respect, and that you sort of have maybe the best of both worlds, and that you're kind of there, but you're not. But you're there with a lot of people that have similar feelings about the artist or whatever, and going to the quote-unquote concert. So, yeah, I can see where people would enjoy that. I'm kind of with your mother, and then I'm not really motivated to go see one at this point. And I have seen I think the Bee Gees won, the same one that we're talking about.
I've seen one. It was called Purple Rain.
So we ought to have like a signal.
A password.
Okay, what's the password?
You got it.
Got what?
The password.
Password is what?
Exactly.
The password is exactly?
No, it's...
Hold it. Slow down. The babe walks in. You see her.
I see her.
You come get me.
I come get you.
And I probably have a couple little sexies on standby. So you glide by me and you say what?
Okay.
The password is okay?
As far as I'm concerned.
Damn it, say the password.
What?
Say the password, onion head.
The password is what?
That's what I'm asking you.
It's the password.
The password is it?
The password is what?
It. You just said so.
The password isn't it. The password is...
What?
Got it.
I got it?
Right.
It or right.
What?
And, oh wait, that's not necessarily concert. No, all joking aside, to answer your question, no, I have not seen any of the concert films, but the reason for myself is a little bit twofold. One, concerts to me are about the events. It's everything. It's the venue. It's the smell of the place. It's the shared experience with people like in person. But the bigger thing for me is I want to go to a concert so I can hear the actual voice of the artist that I enjoy. A long time ago, one of my birthday presents, back when I was in college, Mom and Dad, you guys got me tickets to Laserfest in Milwaukee. And one of my dearest friends and I, we took the trip up there, and he and I got to take that in, and it included Incubus. They were one of the bands that were performing. And I use this as my benchmark for why I would go to any concert. It's one thing to hear these guys on the radio and they sounded awesome, that way, but it's all studio recording. When I got to the concert and got to hear his authentic voice and find out that it is extremely close to what I heard on the radio. So it's not doctored, and I got to enjoy his natural sound. I can't imagine going to a movie theater and feeling like I've received the same experience. I want to see their physical being on stage, and I want to hear them perform for me right then and there. I've had the privilege of seeing that with Aerosmith, and one day their concert could become a film. It would be nice. I have a feeling they'll make an awesome biopic, and I'll be there. But I want to hear those sounds in person as opposed to something pre-recorded and then catching it on a big screen.
So I've seen This Is It, which was the Michael Jackson concert film that was kind of released, I think, posthumously. And I did actually watch the Eras tour. The only drawback I really see to concert films is that the potential for people to devalue the live music experience, because I think even really good concert films, it doesn't compare to actually seeing an artist live. And I just think it's important to see live music. If I was a parent or a guardian or something like that, I would want my kid to go see live music, even if I couldn't afford $1,000 ticket to go see, their favorite pop artist. I would, for instance, the LA Philharmonic performs out here, and the ticket's probably the same. The ticket to see them like at the Disney concert hall is probably the same as a movie ticket to the theater to see a concert film. So I would urge people who are fans of music to still go see live music in a capacity, even if it's not your favorite artist or your favorite genre, to still go see it and still have that experience, because it is an experience unto itself. It allows you to have better conversations with people, to me, because you get to talk about who's good live and who's not. It's a Brandon's point about Incubus. Some artists are very good artists and not great performers. Some artists are amazing performers, but they're not that well known. And so you get to have this experience with this. I didn't really think his music was great. Then I went to see him live. He was amazing. So I just think it's important for people to still go see live music and not use concert films as a way to just start equating those two experiences.
Yeah, and not sure, but I love your point, Chris. And as you were speaking, it reminded me actually probably what predates Incubus, even for my love for live music. Both you and I were in the band in high school, and the Illinois Philharmonic used to rehearse at our high school like once a week. So I had the privilege sometimes. I'd be done with playing baseball or whatever, and I would be kind of winding down because, sorry, Mom and Dad, I didn't always feel like just coming straight home after a game. I was tired and just needed a moment. But also, I knew I was going to get the opportunity to listen to a live Philharmonic performance, and I know they were preparing for their concerts. They once performed 3 Japanese dances, which my high school performed my sophomore year, but I heard mostly through CDs. So the opportunity to sit down and hear the instruments actually play the piece in person was a whole different kind of experience, one that I can't replace. Like, I can't listen to the CD track the same anymore of this piece, which is amazing. It's a beautiful piece. But there's just a whole different feel when you can listen to the live music. And so I'm just saying all that to say that, Chris, to your point, there's nothing that replaces the live music experience. And that's why I encourage people just like you to go out and seek these opportunities, because there's, no matter if you like the artist or the style or not, it just is a whole different thing when you get to hear it live.
And to piggyback on that real quick, I mean, we talk about independent film a lot. Think about artists who are not that well known or who are locally known. A concert film isn't really going to be it, right? Like they make their bones and they build their audience and they make their money off of their live performances, right?
Yep.
So the concert film thing it's great for a mega pop artist, but that's not most of the music industry. So if you are a fan of music, it's good to kind of go out and see some of these smaller acts or who might be only more locally known, and help them put food on the table and keep the lights on, I guess.
Yeah.
And this isn't to discourage people from going to concert films as much as to say is, I think what Chris and I are both trying to say is incorporate the live music performance if you can, because there's nothing that can replace that experience. And it's great for the artists, especially to your point, Chris, to the lesser known artists. It gives them a chance to for you to get a chance to discover them, for them to have a chance to build their own brand and audience. So.
And it's disclaimer, the Era Store is great. I had nothing bad to say about Taylor Swift. So if you're one of these psychos on Twitter.
I really like what you both have to say about that. I too have a bias for live music. And especially over the last, 5 years or so, your dad and I have been going to an awful lot of live music concerts. But the question I'm trying to get to is this: as you guys talk, I'm thinking about what your question suggests. It suggests that you guys do have some concern, or that you guys have this idea in your head that by going to some of these concert movies, we are running the risk of prioritizing those over live music, and live music perhaps taking a back seat eventually, not intentionally, but eventually, to concert movies. I mean, what if concert movies became the preferred way of delivering concerts to people? Maybe instead of the Eras Tour being a worldwide tour, the Eras Tour maybe appeared in a couple of cities, and they recorded those, produced them for movies, and then just distributed them across theaters globally.
Yeah, I don't know how that works with artists in general, because I feel, and this is just a feeling, I have no knowledge of the numbers involved in doing any of the stuff and the logistics, but I think they truly like performing live, and I don't see them giving that up just for the sake of maybe trimming things and making them more efficient. I think the rise of the concert film is just really another format for them to push their music. I feel it's in addition to that. I hope and I don't think that it would replace that.
That's right now. I think that's right now. Right now, it's in addition to every film, every article I've ever read about how artists feel about traveling. They obviously they enjoy performing, but they don't necessarily enjoy the travel. There's a big wear and tear on the body. It's a heavy business, travel is. And it's expensive because they have to hire an awful lot of people to move all of this equipment from one place to another. and it costs a lot of money to rent these venues and so on and so forth. But it's a huge wear and tear, and it's very expensive. And so while right now movie concerts are an additional revenue stream, is there a chance, based on what Brandon and Chris are, cautioning people to make sure this doesn't happen, that people don't substitute it for live concerts? Is there a chance that could happen?
So
if artists decide that I'm going to do fewer and fewer concerts over time and just put it into
Again, I don't know what the crunching the numbers cost-wise is. I don't know what they make in terms of they obviously the agreements that they've entered into with specific theater chains have given them a large percentage of the revenue, much more than they would have in terms of going through movie studios. So that helps out. But if I remember correctly, even though the Eras Tour is considered wildly successful as a movie, it's kind of a drop in the bucket in comparison to other movies in terms of what you might call financial success.
So, Mom, I think that the answer to your question is tiered. Am I concerned that the concerts will be replaced by the movie experience? Not entirely. I caution both industries against that, but I can see a rise compared to what we've seen today. I'm also conscious of the fact that, like, the ones that come to mind, like, I know I keep repeating Beyoncé and Taylor Swift, but the reason why they keep coming to mind is I think it takes a high-level artist for it to even be something that's possible. Because I don't know if the popularity of some of the other acts below that tier would have the same selling power. I think what we'll see is for some of those bigger acts that, they, from a psychological standpoint, if they're done with traveling so much, maybe they will pare down the size of their tour, the length of their tour and everything, but they will supplement it with some more of these concert films. Additionally, though, what I would love to see, and it will take a long time for this to happen, I think what we might see is maybe the rise in the movie-going experience having a little bit of a small shift. Chris, I'm curious if you agree with me a little bit like this, but when you and I went to COSM and saw the advertising for what they had to offer, the types of films they would be putting out there, the experience there is amazing. And I can easily see concerts going live and having a supplementary audience at a venue like COSM, so that they can, even though we can't afford necessarily like the $500 or $1,000 ticket or whatever, but maybe we can drop the 50 or whatever plus the experience as well and catch it at a venue similar to COSM, and that might be where we meet in the middle for this kind of experience.
Yeah, interesting point.
I think it's interesting how these new technologies, virtual reality and augmented reality, are allowing for a near concert experience. That the COSM, for example, is augmented reality. That's what it is. Last night's Dodgers game, they were showing people at the COSM in Inglewood watching the game, and yet the game was in Toronto. And the experience, the look, the feel, it's like you were at the game.
Yes.
And that's COSM it's augmented reality, and that's what it's meant to do. And so it's this amazing technology can allow for people to at least feel like they are there, and they're still getting the live experience. I think that beats a recording every single time.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of concert films. I just don't think a lot of them necessarily get distributed, in theaters the same way, the Eras Tour and all that kind of stuff did, and Renaissance and the Justin Bieber one, and that, like, the bigger artists. Like, there's the Weeknd, there's an old one from Whitney Houston, there's Pink Floyd. It's a lot of artists have concert films, but they're just not in, they don't have theatrical releases to them. So it is a pretty common thing, but I don't know if they would all necessarily do as well or be worth whatever effort they feel like they're making when they approach theaters about it. I do see enhanced experiences like Cosm, like the 4DX, like the, these different kind of theater experiences, or movie theater or projector experiences that we have. I could see concerts being part of that. And so yeah, and I mean, I do appreciate also some of the articles you shared, Rob, that mentioned concerts aren't, some people are, of poor health or have disabilities. And so when you talk about these concert venues, you got to park far away, pay a lot of money, and then walk a long distance, probably on some kind of incline. Like some of these concert venues are not great for everybody to try to get to. So, so there is something comforting about having this as an alternative option. Part of what I brought up as the importance of live music is I think it's a continuing trend of a lot of other entertainment or a lot of other life experiences where people are kind of experiencing them from behind a screen, and that's in some ways that's good enough for them. I think some people aren't as willing to travel because now they can Google image the Great Wall of China, or whatever it is. There's just like this kind of, there's this, I worry that there's this general idea of people equating viewing things behind a screen to seeing them live and thinking it's not much of a difference. And so I brought it up as more of a, just one example of an even larger picture that I feel. As to whether it could happen, I guess, I mean, I think everything starts out as a small thing and it could become a bigger issue. So I see the potential there.
The reason why I don't have as big of a fear of it necessarily taking over is kind of the for lack of a better term, a counterpartner to concert films are movie concerts. Concert films, to clarify the difference here, the concert film is take the musical artists, record their performances at a concert, and then it becomes a movie that we go into the theaters to see. Conversely, the movie concert is where the people go to the venue, and you'll usually have the score being played by a live philharmonic or something, with the film played in the background.
Yes.
And there's an appetite for those experiences. And so that gives me, that warms my heart for number one, but it gives me the sense that people still very much value the live music experience. And that's why I'm not as concerned that concert films may necessarily take over.
Yeah, that and the novelty of that, Brandon. It's the novelty of having a venue where you can go see a film and have the philharmonic or some kind of orchestra playing the music, actually. So that's being done in a number of cities across the country. And it's a great way, too, for the philharmonic organizations to gain exposure to and to draw people to, especially orchestral music. Mm-hmm. But nonetheless, to your point, though, it also serves the purpose of keeping people interested in live music. Yeah,
great way to expose kids to live music like that, too.
Is there an artist or band that you would want to see a concert film of?
I guess because that genre or subgenre doesn't appeal to me. I can't think of anyone. I can't think of anyone I'd like to see presented in a concert film.
I guess it's because it's like you're like, well, really, I'd love to see them live. So it's kind of hard.
Exactly.
It's hard to be like, well, I would only like to see them as a concert film. I'd love to see John Mayer and Leon Bridges, but to my point earlier, I would also like to see both of them live. So, but I would settle for concert films if I could.
Thanks so much for listening to the Cup of Tea Critiques podcast. Honestly, we could go on and on like we do at our dinner table, but we appreciate you figuring out your cup of tea along with us. Make sure you rate and follow us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Also, leave a comment and share a favorite concert film of yours. You can stay in the loop on all things COTC by subscribing at our website at cupofteacritiques.com. You can also find us on Facebook, check out our Instagram at Cup of Tea Critiques, and on Letterboxd at COT Critiques. For Reba, Terry, and Chris, I'm Brandon. We'll see you after Thanksgiving for another deep look with a deep group.